Hi there, I'm Ashlyn with Fixed VIT, and today we're going to walk through everything you need to know to create the best secure passwords for your accounts. Since there's so much information, we're going to break this up into two parts. Today, in part one, we're going to go through all the elements you need to create a secure password. In part two, we'll discuss how to securely store those passwords and some tips and tricks to make sure that they stay safe. As always, if you're looking for a specific section of this tutorial, you can find that by hovering over the progress bar below and selecting that section you need. And with that, let's get started. Look at the list over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, password, admin, ABC123. You're probably thinking, wow, these are the worst passwords you could come up with. While that might be true, they're also some of the most commonly used passwords that people use. If you're using one of these passwords, I'm sorry, we are going to make them better shortly. Please change your password after you watch this video. How are we going to do that? Well, the tech industry loves using acronyms, so I've decided to create an acronym for how to keep your passwords secure. And that is that we are going to take our passwords to L.U.N.C.H. Yes, L.U.N.C.H, which stands for long, unique, no one else knows, complex, and hard to guess. If your passwords have these 5 elements, they'll be so much more secure and so much harder to crack by attackers. So let's go ahead and hop right into long. How long should your password be? Well, technically, it should be as long as possible, but let's look and see how long certain length passwords take. For instance, an 8-character password will only take 10 seconds to crack, but the longer we make our passwords, the longer it takes hackers to get in. It's crazy how that works. So a 12-character password will take over 200 days to crack. And a 16-character password takes even longer, with 10,000 centuries, give or take a couple centuries. We recommend you make your passwords as long as possible with a bare minimum of 12 characters. Now let's look at how to make our passwords unique. Step number 1 is stop using the same password for everything. I know it's easy to use your pet's name and your birthday for every single password, but we have to stop doing that. You should actually never use the same password for any account more than once. Why? Because if a hacker gets into one of your accounts and compromises it, they will use that login and that password for a lot of other accounts. So let's say a hacker gets into your email. They will use that password and that email for your Facebook account, for your banking account, for your Spotify account. So we need to be using unique, very different passwords for each and every single one of our accounts. Next, we need to make sure that no one else knows our passwords. You should never tell anyone your password, and nobody should be asking for your password ever, especially for work accounts. Your boss does not need your password. Your IT definitely doesn't need your password. If they're asking for your password, that is a major red flag that something is not right. You should really just get in the habit of never sharing any passwords. Yes, even your Netflix accounts, you really shouldn't be sharing passwords to that either. Next, we need to make sure that our passwords are complex. What does complex mean? Well, there's 4 elements that we need to make sure they have, and that is uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols. Yes, you really should have a combination of all 4 of those things. I know some logins don't require you to have symbols, but it really makes your password so much more secure if you do. Why do you need all of these 4 things? Well, the more complex and the more complicated your passwords are, the harder they are to crack. So if you have symbols and you have numbers and you have uppercase and lowercase letters, all of these things make it exponentially harder for hackers to get into. For instance, let's look at an 8-character length password, which is already too short, but for this example is fine. Upper and lowercase letters, it only takes 10 seconds for that password to be cracked. But if you have uppercase letters, lowercase letters, and numbers, you're already up to 14 minutes for that password to be cracked. So just by adding numbers, you already have such a more secure password. So imagine what happens if you also add symbols and you also make it a little bit longer. The goal here is to make it as hard as possible for hackers to get into your account. Finally, we need to make sure that our passwords are hard to guess. And that means never use any personal information that could be out on the internet or even on Facebook. Yes, hackers and cyber attackers are looking at your Facebook pages. That means no important dates, such as anniversaries or birthdays or your social security number, even the last 4 digits, please don't put that in a password. Also, never use any names of loved ones or pets or your favorite sports team or your favorite color. those also are very easy to figure out online. Honestly, a good rule of thumb is that the uglier your password is, the better. It should be random numbers and letters and symbols and words. It shouldn't really make any sense. And if you're having a hard time thinking of how to make an ugly password, thankfully, there's options online. There are password generators, like the one from LastPass. It'll make a long, unique, really complex, really gross looking password that you can then copy and use for whatever account you need. And now you're probably thinking, well, how am I going to remember these really complex, long, gross, ugly passwords? Well, in part 2 of this series, we'll talk about how to store all of your complex passwords in a password manager, plus some tips and tricks on how to make sure they stay safe and that you update them regularly. But for now, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to check out our other videos on cybersecurity. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our team of experts either by commenting below or visiting us at fixviit.com. Thanks for watching.